The silent colossus human stepped onto the ice-slicked floor of the interspecies trade dome, boots echoing across the steel plates, breath fogging up beneath the distant blue lights above. His name was John Thorne. And among the thousands inside that orbital hub, only he moved toward her. She stood alone near the outer gate, her massive figure shadowing even the armored freighters behind her. Nearly 3 times the height of an average man, the giantess had skin like shifting gray marble, eyes like twin eclipses, and a voice she had not used in over a decade. They called her Rehal of the Ebon Reach. She was feared not because she was violent, but because of the story that clung to her like smoke. The last time someone had touched her, a planet burned. Aliens passed her in silence. No one dared glance long. No one dared speak. Her file was sealed in 6 quadrants. Diplomats avoided her. Traders left offerings from a distance. She hadn't moved in 3 days, but John walked right up to her. His uniform was old, patched together. His badge had been scratched and faded by old wars no one cared to name. He carried no translator. He didn't bow, salute, or back away. Instead, he stopped a few feet from her and smiled, not mockingly, not foolishly, gently, like someone greeting a friend they hadn't seen in years. And Rehal blinked. He felt it before he saw it, something shifting in the air, like pressure reversing in his ears. The oxygen grew thicker, warmer. The lights above dimmed without flickering. The entire dome hushed, as if all noise had been sucked into a void. Behind him, diplomats froze mid-sentence. Claws paused above datapads. Guards reached for their weapons, eyes locked on the human. She lowered her head, very slowly. Her breath stirred his hair like a low storm breeze. Her lips parted. John didn't speak. He didn't move. He just looked at her with the same calm. Smiled. For the first time in years, Rehal of the Ebon Reach spoke. "Why are you not afraid?" John tilted his head. His voice was soft, but every ear in the dome strained to catch it. "Because I saw you look at the flowers yesterday." The entire station seemed to stop breathing. The word flowers echoed in every translator chip. Somewhere in the crowd, an avian diplomat muttered a prayer. Rehal blinked again. Slower this time. And something beneath her stone-like face, something delicate and long-buried, shifted. "You saw that?" Her voice sounded like cracking mountains. Beneath it was something small. Something afraid. John nodded. "You bent to smell them." "Just for a second. You didn't think anyone saw." She didn't answer. But her massive hand, capable of crushing an armored carrier, gently rested against the floor, palm open, facing him. It was an invitation. Everyone gasped, and John stepped forward. He placed his smaller hand into her palm. The moment he did, her fingers curled slightly, not to trap, not to crush, but to hold. A high-ranking Tetran general fainted. A security alarm failed to trigger. Dozens of high-speed translation units overheated trying to interpret what this gesture meant. But the dome stayed silent, because something had changed. Not just in the air. Not just in her, but in everyone watching. Didn't know what it meant yet, but Rehal the feared was smiling. A human had touched her, and she had smiled, and in the dark corners of the dome, where old enemies whispered behind cloaks and translators, new words were forming. Words about humans. Words about something dangerous. Not their weapons. Not their technology, but something else. Something far worse. They felt, and they made others feel. Rumors in the dark. No one left the dome for hours. News spread faster than light inside the station. Not through official channels or secure feeds, but through whispers, glances, sudden silences in crowded halls. Across the upper-tier balconies and lower cargo pits, aliens of every size and kind repeated the same thing in different tongues. The human touched her. John Thorne Didn't understand the chaos he had caused, not fully. He didn't see the security drones silently shadowing his every step. He didn't hear the encrypted transmissions being fired to 6 high councils and 2 outlaw fleets. He didn't know that multiple species had already started holding emergency meetings to reassess the threat level of Earth's representatives. He was too busy sitting with Rahal in the abandoned docking sector 7B. She hadn't spoken much since their first meeting, but she stayed close now. Her footsteps no longer shook the ground. She moved like a mountain that had decided to grow roots instead of rolling downhill. "You didn't flinch when I moved," she said. Suddenly, John looked up from the old thermal blanket he was laying on the metal floor. "Should I have?" "They always do, even the soldiers, especially the soldiers." He didn't answer right away. He handed her a metal cup of warm liquid, something brewed from Earth's basic ration packs. It looked tiny in her hand, like a teacup meant for insects. "I don't see a monster," he said finally. "I see someone who's tired." Her hand froze. She looked down into the steaming drink for a long moment. There was only silence between them. "What do you want from me, human?" Her voice was quiet now, almost unsure. "Nothing," he replied. "Liar," he smiled again. Not because he was mocking, but because she'd called him a liar with curiosity, not anger. "Okay," he said. "Then maybe just this. I want to understand why everyone's afraid of you. And if they're wrong." Rahal didn't speak again that night, but when she stood up, she didn't walk away. She simply lowered herself beside him, sitting with her back against a massive support beam, shoulders curling slightly inward like she was trying to shrink herself. And somewhere in the shadows above them, hidden surveillance drones kept feeding everything back to command centers far beyond this system. Across the station, 2 different councils watched in stunned silence. On one side, the Tyrathian War Tribunal, reptilian, brutal, driven by conquest. They saw the images with disbelief. "He touches the destroyer of Targan IV," one hissed. "And she allows it. Worse," another replied. "She enjoys it." On the other side, the unified diplomatic core of the Tri-Spiral Alliance. Peaceful, rational, but always watching. "Do we know the human's origin?" asked the Alliance chair, John Thorne, veteran of Earth's 5th Interstellar Aid Division, transferred to exploration duty. Minor disciplinary record, unauthorized aid to enemy civilians during the siege of Varkos. "Of course," someone murmured. "Only a human would risk court-martial to feed enemy children." They all knew what it meant. John wasn't dangerous because of weapons. He was dangerous because of what he made others feel. One diplomat leaned forward. "This could change her." Another corrected him. "This could change everything." Back in Sector 7B, John woke to find something folded near his blanket. It was a gift, simple but heavy. A shard of obsidian armor etched with ancient marks. Her people's kind didn't give these away. He ran his fingers over the jagged surface. It pulsed faintly under his touch. "You left this," he said softly. Though she was nowhere in sight, but she was watching. High above, balanced on a wide beam that only she could reach, Rahal crouched in silence, her eyes fixed on him like stars through the dark. She had given a piece of herself. No alien had ever dared get close, until now. And that meant something inside her had changed. But what no one realized, not John, not the watching councils, not even Rahal herself, was that something deep inside him had started changing too. Something old, something ancient, and something awakening. The memory buried in Stonewall days past, Sector 7B, once forgotten by most of the station, had turned into a silent zone of interest. Officials pretended not to notice. Patrols were reassigned. Even merchant routes subtly shifted to avoid crossing. Near it, no one dared interfere directly, but everyone watched inside that sector, beneath the cold blue lights and humming ventilation shafts. John Thorne sat cross-legged beside a small portable heater. Rahal sat near him like a mountain, resting at peace for the first time in centuries. He had asked no more questions. She had offered no more answers until now. "My people used to sing," she said quietly, her voice low like rolling thunder, muffled. "By snow. Before the burning." John turned slowly. "Sing?" She nodded once. "Not with mouths like yours, not with words. We sang through the stone, through vibration. Our cities grew from cliffs because they understood our songs." He said nothing. His breath slowed. "But then they came," she said. "They took the songs, said they were weapons. They bombed the cliffs, silenced the mountains, called us monsters because we didn't kneel." He didn't ask who they were. He just looked at her and let the silence stretch long enough for her voice to return. "I fought. I crushed their metal wings. I screamed into their fire. And when it was over, I was the only one left." John leaned forward slowly. "You weren't a destroyer." "I was a survivor," she whispered. "There's a difference," John said. "And most don't know how heavy that difference feels." Her eyes moved toward him, black and deep as forgotten oceans. For a moment, they glistened not with tears, but with reflection. "Like wet stone after the rain. You know that weight?" He nodded. "My planet lost 1 billion lives in 6 weeks. When the disease came, we had no cure, just walls. I guarded one of the walls. I followed orders until I saw a boy screaming for his mother. On the other side." He paused. His jaw clenched tight. "I opened the gate." A long silence. "Was she alive?" Rahal asked softly. "She died holding him." But he smiled before the end. And that was it. No more words, but something in her posture eased, something softened. Not trust. Not yet. But understanding. Meanwhile, across the station's higher sectors, alarm bells were ringing, but not the kind that made noise. Encrypted channels buzzed with urgency. Political aides whispered about unauthorized bonds forming. War strategists reviewed footage. New theories bloomed in dangerous places. What if humans had the ability to override primal fear? What if they weren't the weakest species, but the most disarming? What if that smile could reshape alliances? "Terminate the interaction," one general growled. "No," a strategist replied. "Observe it. If he tames her, we may use him." But not all were content with waiting. A third party silent. Hidden made a decision. A bounty was placed. Untraceable, unspoken. Target, John Thorne. Alive, preferably. Dead, if necessary. Because humans weren't meant to change monsters, and some monsters weren't meant to feel again. Later that night, as John slept beneath a glowing field tarp, Rahal stood above him. She had not moved for hours. She looked down. At his face, his features were peaceful, too peaceful. "You opened the gate," she whispered. The words weren't meant for him. They were for the shadows, for the silence, and perhaps for herself. Then suddenly her head turned sharply. Her body tencd. From the far end of the sector, hidden in the venting steam. 6 shadows moved. They didn't walk. They stalked. They weren't soldiers. They were hunters. And they were here for the human. She stepped forward slowly, her giant frame covering John's body completely like a living wall of stone. When the hunters stepped closer, she let out a sound, not a roar, not a threat, but a note. Low. Vibrating. Ancient. The sound rippled through the floor, up the beams, through the pipes of the station's bones. The song of her people, once thought dead, rose again, and somewhere far, far away, a mountain stirred. The song that shook the hunters' sound was unlike anything the hunters had ever heard. It wasn't loud. It wasn't sharp. It was deep like the ground, remembering it used to be fire. Vibrations rolled through the floor beneath their boots. vibrating, their armor and slipping into their bones. Their neural implants flickered. One staggered back, eyes wide, mouth open in silent panic. The leader of the group, a thin, insectoid creature with eyes like frozen mercury, activated a counter-frequency shield. The shield flared bright, buzzed in defiance, and snapped. Song passed right through it. Rhyhal did not move. She only stood above John, eyes half closed, her chest rising and falling with each note she hummed from a time older than memory. John stirred beneath her. His eyes opened slowly, blurry from sleep. Then he saw her standing over him, her expression carved from stone and storm. And beyond her, the hunters. He sat up quickly. Rhyhal, stay, she said softly, not turning her gaze from the shadows. They came closer now, drawing blades and stun. Spikes. They thought she was distracted. They were wrong. Rhyhal moved like lightning wrapped in flesh. One arm swung with the weight of a collapsing mountain, shattering the walkway beneath two of the hunters and sending them crashing into the pipes below. Another lunged forward, quick, quiet, but she bent low and drove her shoulder into him. His body slammed into the bulkhead so hard that the metal dented in the shape of his form. John watched with awe and disbelief, not at her strength, but at her control. She didn't kill them. She could have, but she didn't. The last two backed away. Slowly. One activated a signal beacon, a flare of red light shooting upward. John jumped to his feet. They're calling for backup. Then let them come, Rhyhal growled, but John rushed to her side. No, if more come, they'll label this as an attack. They'll forget who started it, and you'll be blamed. Her chest heaved. Fury trembled in her fingertips, but she looked at him. Then what do you suggest, human? John stepped forward. Toward the hunters. His hands were raised. His voice calm. Stop this now. I know who hired you. You're just tools. If you leave now, I won't report this. The leader hissed. You think you're in control? No, John said. I think she is. They all looked up at Rhyhal, taller than any wall, stronger than any weapon, but still standing still. The hunter's breathing shifted. The others hesitated. Finally, one turned and ran. Another followed. Soon, the corridor emptied. The red light faded. Only Rhyhal and John remained. John exhaled hard. His heartbeat was still pounding in his ears. They'll be back, he said. Yes, she replied. He looked up at her. You didn't kill them. You asked me not to. Why did you listen? Her answer came slowly, with a strange sadness. Because you smiled at me, before you knew what I was. He looked down, then back up again. I still don't know everything. But I know who you are now. Who am I? A protector. Her eyes softened again. And this time, she didn't look away. Miles above them, in the observation chamber of the Galactic Tribunal Station, 6 alien officials stared at the footage in silence. A creature feared for generations had spared her attackers because of one human's voice. This is not just emotional conditioning, said the youngest counselor. This is something else. He is rewiring her instinct, another said slowly. Reprogramming something that's never been touched by diplomacy or threats. The eldest among them spoke last. No, he is not changing her. He is reminding her. They all turned. Reminding her of what? Someone asked. The elder leaned forward. That she was never the monster. She was just alone. That night, back in Sector 7B, John and Rhyhal sat near a flickering heater once more. Why did you sing? He asked. It is the only thing older than my rage, she replied. John nodded. Sing again? She paused. Then, softly, the vibrations began, gentle this time. They rose up from the floor, warm and slow, like ancient roots growing. Back into a wounded Earth. And far away in a cratered moon orbiting a dead planet, A buried transmitter picked up the signal, and something began to respond. The planet that remembered her Namath next morning, Rahal stood at the edge of the station's viewing deck, her eyes locked on the stars. John stood beside her, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. They hadn't spoken much since the incident with the hunters. The silence wasn't heavy. It was full in the distance, through layers of reinforced glass and rotating satellite rings. A planet shimmered beneath a cold blue sun. Its surface was cracked and covered in ash. Its atmosphere was barely breathable. No ships visited it. No records listed it. Its name was erased from every star map. But Rahal remembered it. "That's where it happened," she said, her voice low. John followed her gaze. "You're home?" She didn't nod. She didn't blink. "It was called Verschel," she whispered, before they burned the last syllable from history. John stared at the broken planet. "But I thought it was uninhabitable now." "It is, but once it was alive. Our cities were carved into the sides of mountains. When we sang, the stone sang back." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said gently, "And now?" "Now the stone is silent." But even as she said it, her eyes narrowed slightly. Something was different. A low hum barely there tickled her senses. Not from the station. Not from John. From the planet below. She turned sharply. John noticed it too. The air near them felt charged, like static before a storm. "Do you feel that?" he asked. Ryhal nodded slowly. "The song." It reached the ground. On the far side of Verschel, buried beneath ancient rubble and ash, lay a forgotten temple. Its walls were cracked. Its entrance sealed by time. But deep inside, untouched by fire or frost, a black monolith stood. It began to pulse. Once every few seconds. Then faster. Inside the monolith, dormant codes sparked to life. Stone conduits awakened. Memory threads, older than any civilization, reassembled themselves. Variant songs were never just music. They were messages, commands, identities. When Rahal sang again, she didn't just sing into space. She called home, and home had answered. Back aboard the station, chaos brewed quietly. The bounty placed on John Thorne had been retracted, then doubled by an unknown source. Officials debated in hushed tones. News of the incident in Sector 7B had been suppressed, but fragments leaked through traitor gossip and rogue broadcasts. Whispers spread. "The giantess sings again." And the human made her remember. Some feared it, some worshipped it, but others prepared for war. A secret message was sent to a rogue mercenary fleet orbiting the dead side of Phalanx Prime. An old commander known only as Varka accepted the contract. "Remove the human," the message read, "before the stone sings a second time." In Sector 7B, John packed his gear quietly. Rahal watched. "You're leaving?" she asked, though her voice was steady. "Just for a day," he said. "Command wants a debrief. They're pretending they don't know what happened. But I have to play along." She didn't reply. He paused. "You want to come?" She looked at her hands. "They won't let me in." "Then I'll bring them out." She blinked. You always say things like that. Like it's simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we just forgot how to treat people like people." His voice was calm, but inside, his chest felt tight. He didn't want to leave her. Not even for a day. Not now. He stood at the shuttle bay gate, hand on the scanner pad. Rahal stood across from him, her eyes unreadable. "When I come back," he said, "I want to hear the rest of that song." "You might not want to," she said. "The ending is not gentle." "Neither is life," John replied, "but we still live it." He stepped into the small scout ship. The gate hissed closed behind him. As it launched away from the station, Rahal looked back at the stars. Vershel blinked faintly below Dot, and in its core, the monolith opened. Not fully Dot, just a crack, but from that crack, a voice spoke Dot in her. Language. Daughter, is it you? John's shuttle passed the outer defense ring. Inside, he fiddled with the controls, unaware of the silent craft tracking him from 3 levels above. A mercenary ship, cold, sleek, cloaked. Its weapons charged in silence, and its commander Varka whispered 2 words through gritted teeth. End? Him, but far behind, deep in the heart of a buried world, the second song rose. Low. Powerful. Not from one voice. From 2. The mountain had remembered her name, and now it was calling her back. Between fire and memory, John's shuttle drifted smoothly through the cold dark, its engines whispering through the silence between stars. On the surface, everything appeared calm. But deep in John's chest, something twisted. A sharp pull. Like grief without memory. He shifted in his seat. The stars ahead blurred for a second. His fingers trembled on the navigation stick. What is this? He muttered. Then his cums went dead. A sharp pop, then silence. No signal. No alert. Not even static. Before he could react, the cockpit lights flickered, then cut out. Emergency lights bathed the cabin in dim red. The shuttle jolted violently to one side. An unseen force had grabbed it. Damn it. He reached for manual override, but the ship spun, and then he saw it. A shape. In the darkness. Smooth, black, mercenary designed. No insignias. Just death. They found me. On the station. Rahel fell to her knees. It wasn't pain. It was loss. Her head snapped back, eyes glowing with pulsing gray light. Vibrations surged through the floor. Metal groaned. He's in danger, she whispered. Those nearby didn't question it. They felt it, too. The very air around her had changed. Something primal. Ancient. She stood slowly, powerfully. The lights above her dimmed as if bowing. She looked once more toward VEYR single quotes SHAL. Then she turned and walked to the nearest hangar. Guards stepped in her path. She didn't speak. She only looked, and they moved aside. John's shuttle buckled as a tractor beam latched onto it. He grabbed the emergency toolkit, tore open the back panel, and yanked a fusion cutter from its holster. He wasn't going down quietly. When the mercenaries breached the shuttle door, they expected panic. They expected pleading. They got neither. John fought with a veteran's focus, quick, efficient, sharp. He dropped the first attacker with a strike to the throat, dodged a second's blade, and slammed the fusion cutter into the ship's bulkhead, igniting sparks and steam. But he was outnumbered. A sharp blow caught him behind the knee, another to the shoulder. He dropped. He looked up. Through blood-blurred eyes, he saw the commander Varka step forward. Long gray coat, scarred mandibles, twin plasma blades humming. You should have stayed quiet, Varka said. You should have left her alone, John growled. Varka raised a blade, and just as it fell, the entire mercenary ship shook. Once. Then again. Nettle screamed. Not from weapons. From inside. A hole tore open in the upper deck, like paper in a storm. And from it Rahel descended. Not floated. Not dropped. Descended. Cloaked in energy, her skin glowing like molten stone, eyes burning. The mercenaries froze. Varka turned. No. Rahel didn't speak. She sang. One long note. It shattered their visors. It bent their bones. The ship cracked beneath her voice. And then she stopped. The silence after was heavier than death. She stepped forward, each movement echoing with power. John looked up, barely conscious. She knelt beside him. You came, he whispered. You smiled first, she answered. She lifted him into her palm. Behind her, the surviving mercenaries dropped their weapons and fell to their knees. Not in surrender, but in awe. She turned. The ship groaned as she moved. She didn't need engines. Ship moved with her. Veyre and song hadn't just built cities. It bent physics, and she was remembering all of it. When they returned to the station, no one stopped them. Rywhal carried John in her hands like something sacred. Station leaders met them at the dock, not with orders, not with threats. With silence. And questions they didn't know how to ask. She didn't answer them. She only said, "Prepare a vessel. We're going home." John stirred. "V. Herschel?" She nodded. "I heard it call me back." He smiled weakly. "I want to go with you." "You already did," she whispered. Your voice woke it. "Now we answer." Behind them, diplomats watched with wide eyes. Some whispered of alliances, some of legends. But all knew one thing now: the human didn't just reach her heart. He rewrote history. And Herschel was no longer silent. The song that rebuilt a world vessel hummed with ancient energy. It wasn't powered by engines alone. It was guided by Rewrote's voice. Not a song of war, not a song of mourning. This time, she sang something different. A song of return. John Thorne sat in the observation chamber, wrapped in soft light, bruised but healing. The medics had offered more, but he'd refused. "Just give me a window," he said. "I want to see it." And now, through that window, Herschel turned below them. The planet no longer looked dead. Cracks in its surface glowed faintly. As the ship approached orbit, the monoliths below pulsed in rhythm, as if responding to Rewrote's breath. "It's waiting for you," John whispered. She stood near him, not as a giant to a small man, but as something beside him. Not above, not beyond, just beside. "No," she said softly, eyes reflecting the light of her world. "It's waiting for us." They landed near the temple ruins, the place where it had all ended, or so Rewrote once believed. As her feet touched the ground, the earth trembled, not in fear, but in recognition. Her people's stone responded to her steps. The wind curled around her body. The very gravity felt gentler. And when John stepped onto the surface behind her, something incredible happened. The monoliths began to sing back. Tones rose from deep, underground, harmonizing with Rewrote's presence. "They remember you," John said, voice cracking with awe. "No," she said again. "They remember hope." Together, they walked to the heart of the temple. Inside, a vast chamber had awakened. Golden light shimmered along the walls. Broken carvings repaired themselves as Rewrote moved through. Ancient glyphs flickered alive. At the center, a throne of obsidian. She approached it slowly. Her hands brushed the worn edges, but she did not sit. "This was never meant for one," she said. "We led in circles. We sang in unity. This throne was never mine alone." She turned to John and held out her hand. He stepped forward without hesitation, placed his hand in hers. The stone reacted instantly. A burst of harmonic light exploded outward, soft, radiant, echoing across the planet's core. The temple roared with color. The ruins lifted as dust and time peeled away. Towers rose, platforms realigned. Rivers of molten light flowed once again through the mountains. Hell was awakening. But it didn't stop there. Thousands of light years away, dormant, listening stones began to pulse. Systems where Rewrote's kind were forgotten stirred with new energy. Abandoned worlds trembled with buried memory. And in the hearts of hundreds of watching species, something shifted. Fear turned to wonder. Because now they saw the truth. Humanity's strength was never in its weapons. It was in its willingness to listen. Weeks passed. Ambassadors arrived. Carefully, quietly, like children approaching an old god. They came not with contracts or demands, but with questions. And Rewrote answered them all. Not with threats, not with force. But with stories. Beside her, John helped translate, sometimes with words, sometimes with just a look. Their bond became legend, not for its power, but for its simplicity. A smile, a shared truth, a risk taken when everyone else ran. And so, slowly, carefully, Verschel became a sanctuary. Not just for Ryhal's kind, but for those who had no home, no people, no peace. It welcomed the broken, the castaway, the forgotten. It became a place where silence was never feared again. On the anniversary of their landing, John stood on a high cliff, watching the city glow below. Ryhal approached from behind, her steps quiet, as if the mountain itself wished not to interrupt. "You look older," she said. "You look softer," he replied. They both smiled. He looked at her. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" "Every day," she said. "You walked up to a monster and smiled." "You weren't the monster," John whispered. "No," she agreed. "But I didn't know that until you reminded me." They stood in silence. The wind sang between them. From far below, children of many species played together in stone gardens, chasing echoes of old songs and painting new ones on rebuilt walls. Verschel had become something no one expected. A home, because a human had dared to see the soul of a giantess. And remind her that she still had one.